Hey there, this is Amit from Quiver. Welcome to our short tutorial on Quiver Analytics. In this tutorial, I'll walk you through what analytics are for and how to use Quiver Analytics for your Godot game. So, analytics allows you to track player behavior so you can make important decisions about your game. For example, maybe you want to see how long players are playing your game for. Or is the boss on level 3 too hard to beat? All these types of questions can be answered by sending events from your game to our server and then running queries on those events. So, what is Quiver Analytics and how is it different? So, Quiver Analytics is an analytics platform built for the Godot game engine. It's designed to integrate seamlessly with Godot and to work with simple queries that indie game developers need. Quiver Analytics is also designed to protect your players' privacy so no personally identifying information is shared. And one small note, at the time of this recording, Quiver Analytics is still in beta, so things might change fairly significantly, but the general principle should still be relevant. So first, you'll want to go to the Quiver website, and if you haven't already, create a new project. Fill this out, and this will be the project that's associated with your analytics. So for each new game, you'll want to create a new project. And so once you've created a project, you can go to Analytics for Godot and go ahead, and I have this new adventure project that I've created. And what you can do is go into the Settings tab here, and you'll see that there's an auth token here. Next, you'll have to install the Godot plugin for Quiver Analytics. You can do that by going to the plugin GitHub page and just downloading the code here. So you can go ahead and download the zip. So once you extract this zip file, you'll see that there's an add-ons directory with the Quiver Analytics plugin inside it. So you want to make sure, if you don't already, make sure you have an add-ons folder in your project. And if you don't, you could just use this one. So I'm just going to drag and drop this whole thing into my project directory. And now when I come back to my project, I can go to project settings. I can open up the plugins tab in the project settings, and I can enable this plugin. Now, Quiver Analytics has some special settings, so you'll need to close this project settings window and open it again, and you'll see some new options under the general tab. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that there's a Quiver section in analytics. And here's where I want to copy and paste that auth token from our analytics page right under the settings tab. So I'm going to just take this, copy and paste that, and put it right in here. You can see there's also some advanced settings. We won't be covering this in the tutorial, but just ways to manage consent and some more advanced details if you want to control that. But all we really need here is the auth token. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And if you want some more help on these additional settings, they're in the README file in the GitHub page. Now, by default, Quiver Analytics should send a launch game event when I start the game. So let me go ahead and start the game so we can trigger that launched event. Okay, now I should be able to run my game, and we'll start sending that launch game event. So you can see this is my prototype game that I'm working on. And if I close this, come back to my analytics page and go to the dashboard, we should immediately see, okay, we have a play session here. And these are some default charts that we start you with, but you can create your own, which I'll show you shortly. But we can see this is working. So you just want to confirm that events are being sent. And remember that launch game event is sent automatically when you start the game. So one more thing to keep note of. So the launch game event is set automatically. So there's two ways to handle the quit game event. So I'm going to show you the first one. So in my quit game here, I'm going to go ahead and call this await analytics handle exit. And what this will do is it will wait and flush out any pending events, any analytics events that need to be sent, and make sure they get sent before we quit the game. And so we want to make sure we await this because this can take a little bit of time. And this will clean up everything and also send the quit game event. Now, not all game types have an easy way to track when the game is quit. Like if you think of a web game, a player can just close the tab out, or a mobile game, they could just exit the game really quickly, and you might not have time to send an event. In that case, it'll be handled automatically. The only trade-off is the quit game timing might be not totally accurate up to like a minute off, but it's still a good solution if you can't explicitly handle this exit game event. Okay, so now these are just the automatic built-in events of the launch game and the quit game. Now I'm going to show you how to send custom events. So I'm going to go to my mushroom character here. And let's say when this mushroom dies, I want to send a enemy defeated event. And so this analytics is actually set up as a global auto load, and that gets set up automatically when you activate the Quiver Analytics plugin. So I'm going to just go ahead and say analytics dot add event. And the way we track events is every event has a name and an optional set of parameters. So I could just say defeated enemy. So this is the name of the event. And you can also set some properties. So if we didn't want to differentiate our enemies, we just want to track the total number of enemies, this would work. But in this case, I also want to track, let's say, the type of enemy. And I'm going to call this our mushroom enemy. And so by setting this, whenever this enemy dies, this event will get sent to the server. Now, one thing to note is you may be tempted to do something like this. You might say analytics, add event, defeated mushroom enemy. But you don't want to do this because you're going to get a different event for each enemy type. And it's going to be hard to say like how many total enemies were defeated. So it's better if you have a common event to set it up like this, where you have a common event here and differentiate it by these parameters that you send here. And these parameters can be arbitrary. The types that you can send are strings, integers, floats, and booleans. And that'll be all processed by Quiver Analytics. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to Quiver Analytics, and I'm going to actually open up a different project I have here that's pre-populated with a bunch of events. So I'm going to come here, and you can see all the different events. So this project has like thousands of events to simulate like an actual game with lots of players. And I've set up a dashboard with all these queries, which I'll show you how to do. But I'm going to go to this query tab here. And what this will allow us to do is kind of make arbitrary queries on our analytics. And you can see we have 4 main types of queries we can do. We can do a count, a time series, duration, and a funnel. I'm going to go through each of these really quickly. So the count gives us the total number of events that happened. And so this is the total number of games that were launched in the month of November so far. And so we can see we have 14,000 of those. So this is a total number of events. So if a player launches a game multiple times, it'll be counted multiple times. If we want to see the number of unique players, we can look at this unique number of launch game events. And that says, okay, we have 6,703 players that launched the game, and they launched it 14,000 times. You can also say, calculate the mean and median as well. So you can look at averages there. Next, we have the time series query, which is very similar to the count, except it allows us to break up our events over time. And by default, you can see we're only showing 1 month, so it looks identical to that count tab that we saw earlier. But you can see the difference if I come back here. Let's say I go back to the month of August, and you can see how our launch game events have changed over time. And a really common metric used in analytics is to track your monthly active users. And so you can do that by looking at the unique number of players that launch the game in the month. And I'm just looking at launch game now. That's the event that happens out of the box, but any custom event that you create or that you fire will show up here. And then you can further customize this by using these filters. So these filters help us break down based on the properties that you send. By default, we have this platform property that is sent. So you could say like, okay, how many players were using Windows and Linux, and this will change. And you can also say, let's see, I have this defeated enemy, and I can break this down by enemy type. So I can say, okay, how many players? So show me the total number of defeated enemies where the enemy is a slime. And again, we're doing the time series, so we see this over time. Next, we have the duration. And so the duration query will tell us the amount of time that happens between two events. So the default is between the launch game and the quick game event. So that's like a one game session. And we're looking at the median amount of time. So this tells us the average play session time, which is 30 minutes here. I could also look at, say, like the total amount of time that's being played. So this is across all our players in November. You can see we have almost 450,000 minutes of gameplay. And then finally, we're going to look at this funnel query. And what the funnel query does is it allows us to look at how many players complete a starting event in a given time period and give them a certain number of days to do a follow-on event. So maybe I want to see how many people who started a level. And let's actually make it so that we have, I don't want to say finished level 2. And I want to say that level, how many players, let's say, started level 2 and then went on to finish level 2. So you could see we had 1,309 players start level 2 and then 465 actually finished it. So that gives us some insight into how difficult a level is, for example. And you can customize this by saying how long is the window they get to actually complete that event. And so you might want to extend this or shorten it depending on what your needs are here. Now, if there is a query that we like, we can save it to our dashboard using the button here. And we can just give it a name and save it. And when we do, that will be added to our dashboard here. And that's really it. Hopefully this showed you how easy it is to get started with Quiver Analytics and discover more about how your game is played. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.